The gentle hum of computers filled the Global Defense Initiative's astronomical division as Dr. James Walker stared at his monitor, his coffee growing cold beside him. It was 3 a.m., and the soft blue glow of screens provided the only illumination in the vast monitoring chamber. Something wasn't right with the data, and he knew it. "Computer, display the last 6 months of deep space signal patterns," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. The main screen lit up with a complex web of intercepted signals, each one previously dismissed as background radiation or random space noise. But James saw something else, a pattern. He grabbed his tablet and walked to the center of the room, where a holographic display showed Earth and its surrounding space. With quick gestures, he overlaid the signal data onto the 3D map. His hands trembled slightly as the picture became clear. "Lisa," he called out to his assistant, who was dozing at her desk. "Lisa, wake up. You need to see this." Lisa rubbed her eyes and shuffled over. "What's so important that it couldn't wait until morning, Dr. Walker?" James pointed to the hologram. "Look at these signal clusters. They're not random. They're organized in a grid pattern, all focused on Earth. And look at the timestamps. They're rotating in perfect sequence." Lisa's sleepiness vanished as she processed what she was seeing. "Are you saying we're being watched?" James finished her thought. "And not just by one observer. These are coordinated surveillance points, positioned strategically around our solar system." He zoomed out the display, revealing even more signal sources. "The fascinating part isn't just that they're watching us now. Look at the signal degradation patterns. Some of these transmission sources have been in place for at least 100 years, maybe more." Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. "But our deep space monitoring network only went online 15 years ago. How did we miss this?" James smiled grimly. "We didn't miss it. We just weren't looking for it. These signals are disguised as natural phenomena, cosmic background radiation, pulsar emissions, even solar wind variations. It's brilliant, really. They hide their surveillance network in plain sight, using our own scientific assumptions against us." He pulled up another dataset, this one showing historical astronomical observations. "Look here, in 1947, around the time of the Roswell incident, there was a sudden shift in these signal patterns. They became more frequent, more focused. They'd been studying our technological progress, watching how we develop." Lisa started typing frantically at her terminal. "I'm running a correlation analysis on all unexplained astronomical phenomena from the past century." Her screen filled with data points, each one connecting to others in an increasingly complex web. "Dr. Walker, this is bigger than we thought. The network isn't just watching Earth, it's watching everything. Moon bases, Mars colonies, even our deep space mining operations." James nodded slowly. "And now we know why our quantum communication experiments kept having unexplained interference. They weren't failing. They were being actively monitored and disrupted." He walked to the secure communication terminal and pressed his palm against the scanner. "This goes all the way to the top. Now." Within minutes, the monitoring chamber filled with senior officials from various global defense agencies. James explained his findings, watching their faces shift from skepticism to concern to something approaching fear. General Roberts, the highest-ranking military officer present, finally spoke. "Your conclusions, Dr. Walker. What are we dealing with?" James took a deep breath. "We're dealing with an advanced alien civilization, possibly a federation of civilizations, that has been systematically monitoring Earth's development for generations. They've watched our wars, our technological advances, our first steps into space, and based on the recent increase in signal activity, they're either preparing to make contact or preparing for something else entirely." Lisa finished, her voice quiet but firm. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had just discovered it wasn't alone in the universe, and their first contact might not be peaceful. But James felt a strange calm as he looked at the holographic display. For the first time in human history, they had caught their watchers in the act. Now the question was, what would they do with this knowledge? 3 days had passed since the discovery of the alien surveillance network. The Global Defense Initiative's headquarters buzzed with activity as teams worked around the clock to decode the intercepted signals. Dr. James Walker hadn't left the building since that first night, surviving on coffee and determination. Dr. Walker. Lisa burst into his office, clutching a tablet. The quantum decoder just cracked a portion of their communications. You need to see this now. James quickly followed her to the main monitoring room, where dozens of screens displayed streams of decoded data. But one screen in particular drew his attention. Unlike the others, this one showed clear text, translated from the alien language. Species: human. Classification: developing violent species. Status: harvesting potential confirmed. Recommended action: pacification. The room grew eerily quiet as more text appeared. James felt his throat tighten. When was this message sent? That's the concerning part, Lisa replied, pulling up a timestamp. This was transmitted just 6 hours ago, from one of the observation points near Jupiter to another near Saturn. Dr. Emma Richardson, the team's xenolinguistics expert, spoke up from her workstation. The translation matrix is still processing the rest, but I'm seeing repeated references to something called the collection. Based on context, it seems to be some sort of database or catalog of species. James leaned closer to her screen. Can you pull up any other messages about Earth? Emma nodded, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Multiple windows opened, each containing fragments of alien communications. They've been categorizing us for centuries. Look at these older messages. They track every major war, every technological breakthrough, every space mission. But they made a crucial mistake, Lisa added, bringing up another decoded transmission. They're so focused on our visible military and space capabilities that they've completely missed our quantum research division. James smiled grimly, which is exactly how we're able to read their messages now. General Roberts entered the room, accompanied by 2 representatives from the United Earth Council. Dr. Walker, explain to our guests what you found. James gestured to the main display. The aliens watching us aren't just observers. They're scouts for what appears to be a massive federation of species. They identify developing civilizations, categorize them, and then, he paused, choosing his words carefully, pacify them if they're deemed a potential threat, or harvest them if they're deemed useful, Emma added, her voice tight with anger. These transmissions discuss something called resource extraction and biological assets. One of the council representatives, a tall woman with steel-gray hair, stepped forward. Do we have any indication of their technological capabilities? Some, Lisa responded, pulling up new data. Their surveillance network uses quantum entanglement for instant communication across vast distances. They have ships capable of faster-than-light travel, and based on energy readings, their weapon systems are significant. But they're overconfident, James interrupted. Look at this pattern in their communications. They follow the same procedures for every world they monitor. They assume that because they can't detect advanced defensive capabilities, they don't exist. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not only discovered they were being watched, but had also uncovered the watchers' true intentions. And those intentions were far from peaceful. General Roberts cleared his throat. Dr. Walker, what's your recommendation? James looked at the decoded messages again, then at his team. We keep monitoring. We gather every piece of intelligence we can. But most importantly, he pointed to a particular transmission thread. We track these communication patterns. They lead somewhere, probably to their command structure. If we can follow their own network, we can find out who's really behind all this. Emma finished. The council representatives exchanged looks. You have 48 hours, the woman said. Find out everything you can about their command structure and capabilities. After that, we take this to the full council. Humanity needs to prepare. As the officials left the room, James turned back to the streams of decoded messages. Somewhere in this flood of data was the key to understanding their watchers' weaknesses, and time was running out. Lisa appeared at his side with a fresh cup of coffee. "What do you think they'll do when they realize we can read their transmissions?" James took the coffee, his eyes never leaving the screen. "They're not going to realize it. Not until it's too late." The elevator descended deep beneath the Global Defense Initiative's public facilities. Dr. James Walker watched the floor numbers drop past 50, then 100, until finally stopping at level 242. The doors opened to reveal a sight that made him catch his breath. "Welcome to Project Legacy," General Roberts said, leading James and Emma into a vast underground chamber. "This is what we've been hiding from our watchers for the past 75 years. The chamber stretched for miles, filled with rows of advanced aircraft unlike anything James had ever seen. They weren't the clunky, fuel-powered vessels humanity officially used in space. These were sleek, almost organic in design, with metal that seemed to ripple like water. "Are these?" Emma couldn't finish the sentence. "Reverse engineered from their own technology." General Roberts nodded. The Roswell crash wasn't their first mistake. They've been dropping breadcrumbs for centuries, and we've been quietly picking them up. A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing a timeline of crashes, hidden recoveries, and technological breakthroughs. Each incident had been carefully covered up, not to hide the truth from humanity, but to hide humanity's progress from the Watchers. "The quantum decoder you used to break their codes." The general gestured to a twisted piece of alien tech suspended in a containment field. "We recovered that from a scout ship that crashed in the Brazilian rainforest in 1983. They thought we destroyed all evidence. Instead, we learned how they communicate." James walked slowly around the chamber, taking in the magnitude of the deception. The public space program, the clumsy rockets, the primitive satellites. All part of the show, a new voice said. A woman in a lab coat approached them, her badge identifying her as Dr. Maria Hill, Director of Reverse Engineering. "Every failed launch taught us something new about their observation capabilities. Every primitive satellite helped us map their surveillance blind spots." She led them to a massive hangar door. "But this is our masterpiece." The doors slid open, revealing a ship that dwarfed all others in the facility. Its hull was made of a material that seemed to bend light around it, making it hard to focus on any one part. "The Phoenix," Dr. Hill said proudly, "capable of matching their fastest ships, armed with weapons they don't even know we understand, and completely invisible to their detection systems. We have 10 more just like it, hidden in facilities around the world." Emma ran her hand along the ship's hull, feeling the strange material. "How did we keep all this secret?" The number of people involved. "Compartmentalization," General Roberts explained. "No one knows everything except the Council. Every person here thinks they're working on an isolated project. Only at this level do you see the full picture." James turned to the general. "Why show us now?" "Because of what you discovered." The general activated another holographic display, showing the alien surveillance network. "For the first time, we've confirmed our suspicions about their intentions. They're not just watching us. They're preparing to harvest us. And thanks to your team's work, we finally have proof." Dr. Hill pulled up more displays, showing battle simulations and strategic analyses. "We've run thousands of scenarios. If they think we're primitive, they'll send a small force to begin the pacification process. That's our window." A trap, James realized. We let them think they're dealing with simple prey, and spring 75 years of hidden advancement on them at once, the general finished. "But we needed to be certain about their intentions first. Your decoded messages give us that certainty." Emma studied the battle projections. "What about their main fleet? Their home bases?" Dr. Hill smiled. "That's where you come in. We need your team to keep decoding their transmissions, track their communications back to their command centers. When we strike, it needs to be comprehensive. No second chances." James looked around the massive facility again, seeing it with new eyes. Humanity wasn't helpless. They weren't unprepared. They had been waiting, learning, and building. "How long?" he asked. General Roberts checked his watch. "The Council meets in 12 hours to review your findings. After that, we begin the final phase of Project Legacy. Humanity stops hiding." The Phoenix loomed above them, its light-bending hull a testament to how far humanity had come while pretending to be primitive. The Watchers thought they were studying prey. They were about to learn they had been studying predators all along. Colonel Marcus Stone stood before the United Earth Council in the underground chamber, his presentation causing murmurs of amazement among the assembled leaders. The holographic display showed thousands of dots orbiting Earth, each representing a piece of what the world thought was space junk. "For 50 years, he said, pointing to the display, "we've launched what appeared to be failed satellites and broken space stations. The aliens watched each launch, categorized each failure, and added it to their assessment of our technological capability." He pressed a button, and the image changed. This is what those same objects really are. The space junk transformed in the display. Failed satellites became cloaked weapon platforms. Broken solar panels revealed themselves as quantum shield generators. Dead communication arrays turned into advanced scanning systems that had been monitoring the alien Watchers all along. Project Phoenix wasn't just about building ships, Marcus continued. It was about creating a defensive grid right under their noses. Every piece of debris they ignored was another weapon in our arsenal. Dr. James Walker watched from his seat, finally understanding why his deep space scans had always had strange gaps in them. They weren't errors. They were deliberate blind spots created by humanity's hidden technology. "What about their surveillance capabilities?" one of the council members asked. "Surely they must have detected something." Marcus smiled. "That's where the real genius lies. Dr. Hill, would you explain?" Dr. Maria Hill stepped forward, holding what looked like a piece of ordinary metal. "This is from the Brazilian crash site. Their sensors work by detecting energy signatures, heat, radiation, electromagnetic fields. So we developed technology that doesn't emit energy." She dropped the metal, and instead of falling, it floated. "It absorbs energy instead. The more they scan, the less they see. That's why they think our quantum research failed," James realized aloud. "Their own scanning attempts were hiding our success." "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "Every time they tried to observe our quantum experiments, our technology absorbed their scanning energy. They recorded failure after failure, never realizing they were causing the very stealth effect we wanted." Emma raised her hand. "The decoded messages show they're preparing to move soon. How quickly can we activate all this?" Marcus looked to Dr. Hill, who nodded. "Everything is already active. Has been for years. We just keep it running in what we call ghost mode, absorbing energy rather than emitting it. On my command, each piece can switch to active mode in under 3 seconds." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Years of secret preparations, billions in hidden funding, and thousands of personnel had created a defensive system beyond anything their Watchers imagined possible. "Show them the Sentinel grid," Dr. Hill suggested. Marcus nodded and changed the display again. This time, it showed a network of satellites positioned at the edge of the solar system. These are disguised as frozen comets and asteroids. The aliens' long-range scouts pass right by them, but they're actually our early warning system. The moment their fleet enters our solar system, we'll know. "And if they come in force?" another council member asked. "Then they'll face the full might of everything we've hidden," Marcus replied. "Every failed rocket launch carried up pieces of our defense grid. Every space mission planted more sensors and weapons. We've turned their own assumption of our incompetence into our greatest weapon." James stood up. "The messages we decoded suggest they'll send a small force first, standard procedure for what they consider a primitive species." "Perfect," Marcus said. "A smaller force means we can capture their technology intact, learn even more of their secrets." He turned to the council. We've spent 3 generations preparing for this moment. We're not just ready to defend Earth. We're ready to take the fight to them if necessary." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just been hiding. They'd been building the biggest trap in human history, and their watchers were about to fly right into it. "The question now," Dr. Hill said quietly, "isn't whether we can win. It's what we do after we win." The United Earth Council's emergency session stretched into its 6th hour. On the massive screen before them, simulation after simulation played out different scenarios for humanity's first direct contact with their watchers. Dr. James Walker watched as another possible approach was discussed and debated. A preemptive strike would give us the advantage of surprise, one military advisor argued, and risk turning a potential harvest into an immediate invasion. Emma countered from her seat, "We need something more subtle." Colonel Stone stood at the center of the chamber, his expression thoughtful. "What if we did something they'd never expect from a primitive species?" He looked at James. "What if we simply told them we know they're there?" The room fell silent. It was such a simple idea, yet no one had suggested it until now. "Use their own communication network," Dr. Hill added, warming to the idea. "Show them we've broken their codes without revealing how much we really know." James stepped up to the main console. "We could send a message to every surveillance point simultaneously. Show them we understand their quantum communication system, but not reveal our other capabilities." The council president leaned forward. "What exactly would this message say?" "Something simple," Emma suggested. "Something that shows strength without aggression." James began typing, and words appeared on the main screen. "We see you. We've always seen you. Earth is not prey. It is protected. This is your only warning." The chamber buzzed with discussion. It was direct, clear, and most importantly, it would be completely unexpected from what they considered a developing civilization. "Can we send it through their entire network at once?" the council president asked. Dr. Hill smiled. "Better than that. We can send it through their quantum channels in their own language. Show them we understand not just their words, but their technology." Preparations began immediately. Around the world, hidden transmitters powered up, carefully maintaining their energy-absorbing camouflage while preparing to broadcast. The message was translated into the aliens' language using their own encryption protocols. "Ready on your command," Colonel Stone reported. The council president looked at each face in the room before nodding. "Send it." James pressed the final key. Across the solar system, every alien surveillance probe received the same message simultaneously. On the main screen, they watched as their transmission spread through the quantum network like a wave. "Message confirmed received at all points," Lisa reported from her station. "They're trying to trace it." "Let them try," Dr. Hill said. "Our transmitters are already back in ghost mode. They'll find nothing but empty space and failed satellites." The response was immediate. The alien surveillance network erupted with activity. Emergency signals bounced between observation posts. Orders were transmitted and countermanded. Emma worked quickly at her console, decoding their panicked communications. "They're confused, scared even. No species they've studied has ever done this before. How could they?" Colonel Stone said, "They only reveal themselves to civilizations they think are ready for harvest. No one's ever caught them watching before." New data streamed across the screens as the alien network came alive with activity. The watchers were talking to their superiors, trying to understand how their perfect observation system had been compromised. "Look at these energy readings," James pointed to a graph. "They're powering up systems they've kept dormant, revealing positions they've kept hidden for centuries. And our sensors are recording everything," Dr. Hill confirmed. "Every panicked reaction is telling us more about their capabilities." The council president stood. "And what are they planning to do?" Emma looked up from her decoded transmissions. "They're retreating, pulling back their closest observation posts. They don't know what else we might know, what else we might be capable of." "Should we stop them?" someone asked. Colonel Stone shook his head. Let them run. Let them wonder. The next move is theirs, but they'll make it knowing one absolute truth. Earth is not the primitive target they thought we were. In the silence that followed, James watched the alien surveillance network continuing its frantic communications. Humanity had just changed the rules of a game their watchers didn't even know they were playing. And they had done it with just 7 words. Now they would wait to see how the aliens play their hand. But this time, Earth would be watching them. In the 24 hours since Earth's message, the Global Defense Initiative's monitoring chamber had become the most important room on the planet. Dr. James Walker hadn't left his post, watching as the alien surveillance network underwent a complete meltdown. Another observation post just went dark. Lisa announced, marking off a point on the holographic display. That's the 37th in the outer solar system. Emma looked up from her stream of decoded transmissions. They're not just shutting down, they're running. Listen to this message I just decoded. Priority alert. Earth status updated. Reclassification required. Harvest protocol suspended. Colonel Stone smiled grimly. They're not used to their prey biting back. The main screen showed the systematic retreat of alien observation posts. Like a wave moving backward, their surveillance network was collapsing from the inner solar system outward, but humanity's hidden sensors, disguised as space debris, tracked every movement. Dr. Walker, Dr. Hill called from her station. You need to see this. They're using a new type of transmission, heavily encrypted. James moved to her console, studying the strange patterns. They're calling for help, he realized. These signals are aimed toward the center of the galaxy. They're reporting to their superiors. The council president entered the chamber, followed by military advisors. What have we learned about their command structure? Dr. Hill brought up a complex diagram on the main screen. Based on their communication patterns, they're part of something called the Collection Federation. Think of it as a galactic hunting party. They identify developing worlds, categorize them, and either harvest them for resources or add them to their federation as subordinate species. But only after proving their superiority through force, Emma added, scrolling through more decoded messages. They've done this hundreds of times. Find a world, watch it develop, then swoop in when they think the civilization is advanced enough to be useful but not advanced enough to resist. That's why our message scared them so badly, James explained. We didn't just show them we could see them. We proved their entire assessment protocol was flawed. They've never had a target species discover them during the observation phase. Colonel Stone pointed to new activity on the display. Look at these energy signatures. Their retreat isn't just tactical. They're implementing emergency protocols, destroying observation posts rather than just abandoning them. They're covering their tracks, Lisa realized, destroying evidence of their presence. The council president leaned forward. And what are they saying about us in their reports to their superiors? Emma pulled up the latest decoded transmissions. They're struggling to explain how they missed our technological advancement. Their reports are full of confusion, and is that fear? She looked closer at the translation. They're afraid of what else they might have missed, what other capabilities we might be hiding. Perfect, Colonel Stone said. Let them wonder. Let them question every assumption they've made about every world they're watching. Dr. Hill's console suddenly lit up with alerts. Massive quantum surge detected at the edge of the solar system. Multiple ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The room tensed, but James studied the readings and smiled. They're not attack ships. Look at their energy signatures, their evacuation vessels. They're pulling out their entire observation network. Running away with their tails between their legs, Colonel Stone commented. Not just running, Emma corrected, reading new transmissions. Listen to this. Warning to all collection units. Earth sector declared restricted. Approach with extreme caution. Technology level. Unknown. Threat level. Maximum. The council president smiled for the first time in days. They came looking for prey and found equals instead. How many other worlds are they watching? I wonder. How many other civilizations might be more advanced than they appear? That's what scares them the most, James said, watching the evacuation ships gathering their observation posts. They're not just retreating from Earth. They're questioning their entire system of evaluation. Every world they're watching might be another Earth, hiding its true strength. The aliens had come as hunters, confident in their superiority. They were leaving as the hunted, unsure of their place in a galaxy that suddenly seemed much more dangerous than they had imagined. 1 month after Earth's warning message, the Global Defense Initiative's monitoring chamber had transformed from a crisis center into something far more interesting. Dr. James Walker stood before a new set of displays, watching signals that told a very different story from the alien surveillance network they had first discovered. "Another one," Emma announced, her voice excited. "This time from a star system 80 light-years away. They're using the same quantum channels the Collection Federation used to watch us." On the main screen, a message played out in carefully coded quantum pulses. "We see them too. Earth is not alone in its defiance." Dr. Hill checked the signal's origin. "That's the fourth world this week to break their silence. The Federation's observation network is falling apart system by system. They're all dropping their masks," Colonel Stone said, studying the growing map of revealed civilizations. "Just like we did. Worlds that were pretending to be primitive, hiding their true capabilities, waiting for the right moment." The council president entered with a group of new faces, representatives from these other hidden worlds, brought to Earth through secretly developed quantum transportation technology. Each of them carried stories of their own civilization's quiet resistance against the Federation's watching eyes. The Federation made one fundamental mistake, a delegate from a water world 40 light-years away explained. They assumed that any species advanced enough to detect them would immediately show it. They never considered that we might choose to hide our capabilities. James nodded, remembering how Earth had done exactly that. They looked for pride, for species that would show off their technological achievements. Instead, they found patience. Lisa brought up a new display showing the Federation's rapidly disintegrating power structure. Their entire system was based on finding and subduing worlds before they became too advanced. Now they're facing dozens of civilizations that are already more advanced than they estimated. And more importantly, Emma added, translating a flood of new interworld communications, we're all talking to each other now, sharing technology, strategies, defensive capabilities. The Federation's not just losing their hunting grounds, they're watching a new alliance form right before their eyes. Dr. Hill gestured to the Phoenix, visible through the chamber's massive window where it docked with vessels from other revealed worlds. "We're not just defending ourselves anymore. We're creating something new, something better than their Federation of hunters and prey." The council president stepped forward. The Collection Federation offered its members two choices: be harvested or become hunters themselves. We're offering a third option: join an alliance of equals. Help us protect other developing worlds. Give them the chance to grow without fear. Colonel Stone pulled up tactical displays showing the combined defensive capabilities of the revealed worlds. The Federation's already pulled back from 12 solar systems. Their hunters are becoming the hunted. "But we're not going to harvest them," James stated firmly. "We're not going to become what they are." "No," Emma agreed, reading through more messages from their new allies. "We're going to do something they never considered. We're going to offer them the same choice we're offering everyone else: join us as equals or leave us in peace." The chamber filled with representatives continued their work, coordinating the greatest diplomatic and defensive network the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's warning hadn't just saved humanity. It had sparked a revolution among the stars. Another signal, Lisa called out. A small Federation world, asking to defect. They say they're tired of hunting. They want to join the Alliance instead. James watched as the galactic map updated, showing another point of light joining their growing network. The Federation had spent centuries building a galaxy of fear and domination. In 1 month, Earth's defiance had begun to transform it into something else entirely. A galaxy of equals, united not by force but by choice. The age of hunters and prey was over. The age of allies had begun.